All right. Good day, everyone. Once more, it is still your humble Professor Reasonable. Now we've just done the part one for education, how education actually affects, contributes to divorce. Not necessarily education per se, but the fact that we are educated people, but we have not allowed education to cause the necessary evolution that it's supposed to create for us. So, which means that we have not actually um, been able to maximize the 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 creativity that education brings. We have not been able to maximize the power of education, because when we say education is light, we are simply talking about allowing education to remove the dark part of us, allowing education to remove our colonial mentality, allowing education to remove our slavery mentality, to make you become more informed, to make you become more smart. And when you have become a smart person, you will understand how to work with different kinds of people, including women, even as wives. So now, we are going to be looking at some of the some of those things that makes it very difficult for men who have colonial mentality or slavery mentality, who actually form a larger percentage of our population, especially in Africa. You know, why it becomes more difficult for for such men to actually work with smart women or educated women. Because if you look at it, there was a time it was even trending, even as educated men. When some people want to marry, they'll be looking for women in the village. They'll have to go to the village to go and marry somebody who is not educated, because they feel they want a woman who will, exactly, this is what we are going to be looking at: submission. They say submission. They want a woman who can easily submit. Then they want a woman who does not have any form of personal interest. When we mean any form of personal interest, that is probably pursuing a career. They want a woman who does not have the drive to pursue her personal legacy. To mention but a few: submission, career or personal interest, then pursuing legacy. Yes, you realize that now. Let us go back. This is why I said we have to understand the different types of word that humanity have actually lived through, for us to be able to analyze this issue. Now, you realize that in the slavery era, the slave women who were predominantly ignorant, who were uneducated, it was easy for them to submit to their husbands. You realize that even when women in that era were not accorded the true respect that they deserved, they didn't have much choice. They were, because they didn't have the kind of education the women of today's smart world have. They were not really creative in terms of solutions. When a woman in such world have a problem, they if they don't find a man to help them resolve that problem will, they will die with that problem. Let me put it that way. women in the slavery world, women in the colonial world depend almost depend on men almost for everything. But today, because of education, women have become even more independent. Women work now, they earn money on their own. So whether you are there as a man or not, a lot of women today can actually take care of their financial needs. So now you realize that the truth is that if as a man you are not truly very smart, for a woman who can take care of her financial needs and so many other needs, she's got the connection and even the contacts for her self-protection. There are if those days women had to depend on men even in terms of protection. But today there are some women who are even protecting men. That's the fact. So now for such a woman, if you as her husband, you are not truly very smart, you are not super strong, you will agree with me that naturally submission from such a woman will ordinarily be very difficult. Let's tell ourselves the truth. When we talk about submission, it is easier for um, a less stronger individual to submit to a more stronger individual. Let me put it that way. Whether in terms of psychology, physically, financially, and otherwise. Now, when you now have a wife, in terms of finance, either she equals your strength or she's stronger than you. One thing we also don't realize is the fact that our women are now educated. We are going to get to that when we talk about the logic and emotion orientation of men and women. That naturally, men are logical in nature, and women are emotional in nature. And by divine design, ordinarily, men tends towards logic, even from birth. And when we get to that part, I will explain how it happens. Now, women tends to emotions naturally, but education has a way of changing this phenomenon. That the more educated a woman is, the less emotional she becomes, and the more logical the woman becomes. So you now realize that when we are talking, when we discuss the issue of logic, emotion, logic and emotion, and we talk about how logic repel each other, we'll be able to understand this better. But let me just touch it a little bit. Now, our women who are now educated women, and they have become more logical because through education they have learned how to be critical, how to analyze, how to 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 understand very very complex issues. For example, just imagine a woman who studied engineering, a woman who have gone to school and have studied mathematics, a woman who have gone to school, she's a medical doctor. My brother, you still want to believe that in terms of logic, that woman is just an ordinary woman like the women who lived in the slave era, the women who lived in the colonial era. And like some men want to believe, just because I'm a man of the house, just because I provide for the house, you think that ordinarily her logic will not come to challenge your logic. Naturally, that education she has acquired in school. This is why you see, like those days, men uh, uh, um, uh, men felt that it is better to marry women in the village. They used to have this. We used to have growing up. I used to hear people say that if you marry woman where go school, now so grammar now go they speak for house. So which means that the women who are educated wants you to make them understand why they should do certain things. They are telling you that you can't just tell me do this as an educated person without giving her reasons, and you just want her to go and carry out the instructions. If as a smart man or a man who is living in a smart world, you are, because in the colonial era and the slave era, men will just tell their wife, go and do this, and the woman will ask no question. By nature, by upbringing, they were trained to function like that. They were trained to submit without question. Now, I want to put it to you today that those who are watching now, because the way I'm talking is as if I'm sounding like women have the right to disobey their husband. Women should be arrogant. No, this is not what I am talking about. Because women are educated, they should be arrogant, they should be non-submissive. That is not the point. Now, what we are saying is that as men, if we are more evolved, as men, if we can understand that women have changed and now learn how to work with these women, how we can negotiate with them. You as a man, for you, when you have an educated man, a woman, you should understand that that woman can no longer function by taking just orders from you without asking questions, it is not her fault. Her mentality has been configured to work like that. Because that is what education teaches us. You and I, we went to school. If we